In the know, non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
You like that? You like that? You like that? That's right. 1, 2, 3. You like that?
If they win, can we get Kirk in the locker room to do the breakdown with a you like that? Or like maybe Jaren Hall. With Jaren Hall, is he allowed? It's trademarked. Would he be allowed to take the you like that torch forward here? Or?
Yeah. I wonder, I bet Kirk doesn't travel to this game.
Yeah, he probably can't after the Achilles.
That seems like a very aggressive travel schedule after surgery. I bet he doesn't travel.
So he'll be in attendance. My guess is he'll be in a booth up top for the home game against the Saints, right?
And they'll show him on the Jumbotron, and the crowd will go crazy.
Get a big cheer. Yep. Mm-hmm. Could see that happening. I don't know if Kirk's a Vegas guy or not, but maybe after the bye he can make a trip out to Vegas with the boys. Could you see Kirk going on a Vegas bender? I don't know. Probably not.
No, I could not.
I'm trying to think what would be his game of choice even. He doesn't seem like he'd like roulette.
I think the deal or no deal slot machines, like the low budget ones. You know?
Yeah.
I think that's a great call. I think you nailed it.
Some negotiating involved. I could see that being the case. By the way, welcome in. This is Purple Daily. It's a Purple Picks episode where we make our official picks for this Vikings and Falcons game. Purple Daily presented by Quick Trip, where we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die here. And before we get into some of the trends and what some of the smart people are saying about this game, let's answer a couple questions ourselves here, gentlemen. What are you most confident about on behalf of the Vikings going into this game at Atlanta?
Well, this is going to sound a little bit odd, but I'm going to say this because of the uncertainty, obviously, surrounding the quarterback position and hence the offense. I am the most confident about the Vikings defense, which is when it comes to total yards, they are on the verge. I think they're 11th. They're on the verge of being top 10. This defense, you know what, for what we expected, and I think we expected improvement for sure. Mm-hmm. We just didn't know how much necessarily. It's been really damn impressive. So I am actually the most confident that the Vikings defense is going to cause Taylor Heineke, who's getting the start for the Falcons, and the Falcons offense some troubles.
Vikings defense, 9th best in the NFL in yards per play allowed, and 15th in the NFL in points per game allowed.
Yeah.
So they're only
taking that in a heartbeat.
They're only 0.8 points per game. So like less than a point per game away from being 10th. It's all very jumbled together in scoring. So they've gone from being one of the worst scoring and yardage defenses in the NFL to being top half of the league, and even like in some important areas, sort of like a fringe top 10 defense.
Spitballing a little here, but I think I heard yesterday on ESPN radio, I think Greeny was actually talking about the Vikings and Brian Flores, and I think in the month of October, they were like top 5 in yards per play allowed. So they were again against like Brock Purdy too. Like they held their own last month. They were pretty good last month.
To do that to the 49ers and then like on the road too, it's impressive. So, all right, what are you most confident about, Declan?
I'm most confident, I know this is going to sound a little funny, in the Vikings winning ugly. I'm most confident in the Vikings winning an ugly football game. The Vikings and Falcons, and I know we're going to get to the spreads here, there are one of 3 games this week where the over-unders are 37.5. There are some ugly football games on the docket this weekend because of all these backup quarterbacks that have to play. But I'm confident in the way the Vikings can win this game ugly. They still, even though they're without Justin Jefferson, they have Addison, they have Hawkinson, they have Madison and Akers. They have weapons here to potentially still, for Jaren Hall to utilize. And to Judd's point, the defense should be able to fluster Taylor Heineke, who is, I think, a capable backup, but certainly not someone that's probably going to light you up either. So I'm confident in the way that the Vikings can win this football game ugly.
It's so hard to sort of tell until we see if Jaren Hall can play. But I think I'm most confident in Kevin O'Connell to put together a plan that makes sense. We've seen a lot more creativity in recent weeks. We've seen Brandon Powell on jet sweep motions. I feel like the absence of Justin Jefferson has almost forced Kevin O'Connell to go into more creative mode, saying, okay, well, we can't just throw the ball. We can't just line up and throw the ball at the best receiver in the NFL and move the ball anymore. We need to get a little bit more creative. So Powell on jet sweeps. We've seen Jordan Addison lining up in the backfield, catching a touchdown pass against the Packers. So I think he's going to, clearly he's been working very closely all week with Jaren Hall. And I think he's going to take some pride in, we can't just let that kid sit back there. I mean, he's one of the, he's like 25 and a half years old, but we can't just let him sit back there like we would Kirk Cousins. It's going to spark some creativity. So now whether Jaren Hall sinks or swims, even with the creativity, we will find out. But I'm confident that Kevin O'Connell is going to put together a game plan offensively that's probably leaning on the run. It's probably leaning on some motions, maybe even a trickeration or two. What are you least confident in, or what are you the most nervous about on behalf of the Vikings?
Jaren Hall, just because we don't know, and I mean that is a big spot for a 5th round pick. Who, when the season started, in fairness, the plan was never for him to start. I mean,
or play.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it probably wasn't for him to play. Exactly, that's what I was gonna say. So I think it would be screaming of hubris to be confident to say, oh, he's going to be fine. We don't know. And look, Kirk Cousins, this will be the first game in his career he's missed because of injury. That is absolutely incredible. And Nick Mullins he's not great, but he was a sufficient veteran backup. So when the season started, the Vikings actually were pretty prepared.
Yeah.
Things have gone. So I'm not going, this is not like Sean Hill, right? Sean Hill's our backup to Teddy. Well, no, he's a coach. That's what he is. This team tried to get its backup QB situation in pretty good shape. They lost Mullins. They've lost Cousins now. And Jaren Hall is stepping into, on the road, a pretty hot spot here. So I am the least confident just because it's such an unknown in what Jaren Hall is going to do, even with a week of prep.
For me, I would just say the Falcons defense. I know we gave credit to Flores and what he's been able to cook up here with the Vikings, but the Falcons defense are no slouches either, man. I mean, they're top 10 in a lot of different metrics. They're actually 4th in opponents' third downs. They're 5th in red zone percentages in terms of limiting teams to converting red zone appearances. Like, they've got some good metrics here on third down. They'll make a rookie quarterback's life very difficult. So I think what probably would scare me the most, or the biggest uphill battle the Vikings will have to face, is having that rookie quarterback face a pretty dang good defense in the Falcons. So that's probably the thing that would scare me the most.
I'm going to sit in the zone right between both of you here, and I'm going to go a little deeper on kind of what you both have said. So the thing that makes me the most nervous here is how Jaren Hall responds to defensive pressure. So the Atlanta Falcons, according to Pro Football Reference, have the second highest pressure rate as a defense on opposing quarterbacks, behind only the Jets. Now, pressure rate is different than blitz rate, because not all blitzes turn into pressures. But pressures can come from blitzes. They can come from non-blitzes, right? So I'm just talking about pressure rate. They don't blitz as much as the Vikings blitz, but they get more pressure than the Vikings do comparing defenses. So the Falcons get pressure on just under 30% of dropbacks so far this year. And Jaren Hall, when he was in college, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the country when given a clean pocket. So that's good. If they can keep him clean, he might have a chance to sit back and find Jordan Addison. We talked about this on our Jaren Hall episode this week, that in college last year, he was the second highest rated passer in terms of just passer rating, behind only CJ Stroud when given a clean pocket. And he had one of the highest accuracy rates too. When he's pressured, it's kind of a train wreck in college. So his passer rating dropped from 131 when he was kept clean last year at BYU to 41 when he was pressured. And his turnover-worthy play rate
Football.
was 1% when he was kept clean, 7% when he was pressured at BYU. That's at BYU in college.
Right.
I mean, and this is the reason, one of the reasons, and his size probably too, and age, why he was a 5th-round pick and not a 2nd or a 3rd-round pick. So can Kevin O'Connell now help Jaren Hall play with a quiet mind, just as he set out to help Kirk Cousins a couple years ago? It's going to be interesting. Also, one more nugget on the Falcons' pressure defense. They have the #1 quarterback knockdown rate in the NFL. 14.5% of dropbacks result in a quarterback getting knocked on his keister with this Falcons defense.
And the question now is this: if those things work And they very well might. I mean, hell, if this kid had been a first round pick and those statistics that you just went through weren't bad in college, this is an entirely different world. So the question is, if Jaren Hall does struggle with those things, does Dobbs start against the Saints on November 12th? Or do you bring Hall back? Because it's not fair to think O'Connell and Hall are going to have perfected this thing in 1 week. Like, that's the question.
Like, do they think, another thing is too, if they are, they're looking at how to win games this year, but then they're also kind of looking at just big picture, who do they like as a quarterback too, right? Because Kirk's hurt right now. He's a free agent. How quickly they move off Jaren Hall into Josh Dobbs will definitely tell you a lot. Like, how much do they really like what Jaren Hall is doing?
Right.
What are the sharps saying about this game? What are some of the betting trends here according to Action Network? So the Vikings right now, as of the recording of this podcast, are 3.5 point underdogs. That line has moved. I think it was like 5.5 early in the week. So it's now moving toward the Vikings. That's because more money is coming in on the Vikings. So the line is reducing. 52% of bets are on the Falcons, but nearly 70% of the money is on the Vikings. So some bigger bets coming in on the Vikings here. Since 2015, only 2 backup quarterbacks have started games for the Vikings. Sean Mannion and Case Keenum. Those quarterbacks combined, which is funny to combine those quarterbacks, are 12-6 straight up. So it's like Keenum has all of the wins pretty much, and Mannion has lost his, right? This will be the first time since 2021 the Vikings have needed a backup quarterback. Jaren Hall gets the start for the Vikings, his first career start. Quarterbacks making their first career start in the NFL are 38-70 straight up over the last decade. And since 2021, quarterbacks making their first career start on the road are 3-15. Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Not good. The Vikings defense is allowing a completion percentage of 72.2% this year, which is the 11th highest through 8 games in the wild card era, going back like 30 years.
Wow. That's interesting.
So I think that tells you that a lot of those completions are sort of harmless, right? The pressure is forcing a shorter pass.
They're what Donatel wanted.
Yeah, well,
that's what Ed thought he was
more
going.
Pressure, Ed.
Yeah. Well, no. You got to play deep.
The Falcons, let's go through some Falcons trends, are 18-29 against the spread against non-division opponents since 2019, which is the worst mark in the NFL. So it's not good for them. And then lately, they've just struggled in general against the spread. The Falcons are 5-14 against the spread in their last 19 games overall, and 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 games. Taylor Heineke is 5-1 straight up as a favorite, and 7-12 straight up as an underdog. So this is a good spot for him. He's a favorite, and he's 5-1. Actually, 5-1-1. He has a tie in there, straight up when he's a favorite.
And he got the start for the Commanders last year in Washington against the Vikings, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Vikings had to dig out from one of Kirk's best throws as a Viking was in that game where he got lambasted and put that ball up to Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
And his ribs, that was featured on the Netflix.
He came out for a snap because of that.
Yeah. Painful.
That's a great scene.
Before we make our official picks here, gentlemen, I am perusing through the Prize Picks app right now, and Jaren Hall is currently listed at 192.5 yards. Would you go more or less on the Prize Picks app for 192.5 yards on Jaren?
I'd go less.
You go less?
I go under.
Let's see. I'm trying to find Taylor here if he's on this list. I don't know if they've posted Taylor yet. Declan, would you go 192.5 for you? I think I'm going less.
And that's total, right?
Yeah, total passing yards. So, but there's a bunch of fun things you can do on Prize Picks. You can win up to 25 times your money this football season by selecting 2 or more players, picking more or less on their projected stats. Also, you can now blend multiple sports together And so here's what you could do for instance, with basketball season here, you could do combo projections across, let's say, football and basketball. You could do like LeBron James and Travis Kelce at a 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made and receptions. Carry the fun across multiple sports. If you want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill, comedian Andrew Schultz, or all-around good guy Phil Mackey, you can do that too on Prize Picks. It's great. PrizePicks.com/Purple Daily and use the code Purple Daily for a first deposit match up to $100. That's PrizePicks.com/Purple Daily with the code Purple Daily for a first deposit match up to $100. And a shout out to our friends over at Nutrisource. Nutrisource chicken and rice is the official food of Maya Mackey. The Vinster's in there as a co-host right now.
Where's the
here.
Vinster? He's
Nutrisource?
sleeping.
Does anyone besides Vinny use that bed in your office?
My nephews used it when my brother stayed here a few weeks ago. It is from my first apartment, and outside of Vinny, it's Vinny's Nutrisource treat, kingdom. He just kind of takes up his treats. He goes up and hangs out on that bed.
Did that used to be like your bachelor bed or something?
Yep.
Just a tiny little.
Yeah, it's
looks
a full.
very-
It's a full. It's a full.
That's
you know?
tiny.
It's a full bed. We got a queen in the other
The Vinster
bedroom.
deserves more. I'm going to say that
And-
right now.
yeah.
You know what? Combine his Nutrisource treats with a better bed to be a better dog father.
NutrisourcePetFoods.com to find a Nutrisource retailer near you. We appreciate their partnership. NutrisourcePetFoods.com. Okay, boys. So let's get down to brass tacks. Vikings and Falcons. We're looking for a winner straight up, and then tell me how much they win by. So you guys are both 5-3 picking Vikings games straight up. I'm now 2-6. So whatever I say, the opposite's probably going to happen.
Yeah.
Against the spread, Judd's 4-4 picking Vikings games. Declan's 3-5. I'm 2-6. So we'll start with Judd. Who wins this game and by how many points?
Falcons win. What's the spread?
3.5.
Again? 3.5. Falcons win and Falcons cover.
Oh, you're really negative.
Yeah. It's a big ask in my opinion. Of Jaren Hall.
I'm glad I locked in the 5.5. At least on write that down because I'm in that 2-point swing. That's huge. I think given the information Phil laid out, I believe the Falcons win this game, but the Vikings cover. I believe the Vikings will cover the spread, but the Falcons win, a 20-17, 17-14 situation. My God, if it's a Big Ten, 13-10 game, I could maybe even see that with these two quarterbacks. But I think the Falcons probably will win this game. But I'll take the Vikings to cover.
Okay, little hedge. Seems wise with that half-point hook there on the end of the 3. So again, I am always wrong this season. So I'm sorry to tell the audience that I have picked the Vikings to win this game, obviously straight up, and that would mean that they would cover the 3.5. So I got the Vikings to win and the Vikings to cover. I think the letdown might come back at home against the Saints once the league has like a full week, because then you're going to have a full week of a scout on Jaren Hall, or you're going to be starting Josh Dobbs for the first time. And I think the Saints are better than the Falcons, so we'll see.
I just don't know how Jaren Hall, it's such a wild card. You just
Absolutely.
don't have any idea how he's going to look and respond. And I know he's older, so he is a more mature human being, but that doesn't mean a damn thing when the lights come on and you're playing against, to your pressure, Phil. The Falcons are sending an NFL blitz with stunts.
Yeah.
And, oh man, it's just tough.
Wasn't Brandon Whedon like a 27-year-old rookie when he got drafted by the Browns? Wasn't he super old?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he had a military service, right? Something like that.
That sounds right, yeah.
And then he went to Oklahoma State afterwards.
And Bo Nix will be 30 when he gets drafted next year. So same thing.
Bo Nix.
Such a great
Chris
football
Weinke
name.
was another one who was like 29 years old when he was drafted by the Panthers.
Bo Nix is a great football name.
It is. It
And
does
even
feel like
better quarterback
a
name.
made up name in a football movie or something. So, all right, there you go. You guys are picking the Falcons. I am picking the Vikings, and we'll see what happens. Vikings Vent Line will obviously run live right after that game finishes up on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. Thanks for hanging out with us. Purple Daily presented by Quick Trip, Daily Vikings Entertainment.